and probably what I feel was the closest I've come to being in a situation where I could have lost my life. Hey guys, how you going? Coming to you from the big blue chair. I've got an India story to tell you. I've had more like crazy type experiences in that place than any other place in the world. You either love it or you hate it. And I don't think anyone goes to India for a relaxing time. It is just a smash on your senses as soon as you arrive. Colors, the smells, the sounds, the noises, the people, the culture, it's just friggin' in your face. It's alive. So anyway, getting back to the story, it was like a near death type story, and the story begins in Dharamsala, which is right at the top of India. It's also where the Dalai Lama lives, and he has his monastery there. I was there to have a meeting or have a session with the Dalai Lama. Not just me, but me and hundreds of others also standing in a line. So trust me, I'm not a special one. I was there with hundreds of others, and I was very lucky that I had an opportunity to speak to the Dalai Lama. That's another story completely. So I was in Dharamsala doing yoga every day, meditating, feeling pretty connected. And there is a great big mountain that's called Mount Triond. And generally speaking, 90% of the time, it's in clouds. And oh, Paddy, I'm sorry. Paddy's got something to say. Paddy the dog. And it's a really big, quite high mountain. I'm not sure how many meters high. It is above sea level, definitely right up there. And it sits at the gateway of the Himalayas. So beyond it is the entire Himalayan range. And so I really wanted to get to the top of it. And every part of my intuition was saying, you've got to get to the top of that. The first moment that cloud clears, you've got to get to the top. I didn't know how long it would take. There's no track as such. There's no tourist trail. There's just the mountain and a bunch of goat tracks and maybe some locals. And so I was just waiting in between, waiting for an audience with the Dalai Lama and watching the weather and hoping that one day I would get the clear view of the mountain. And it took weeks for it to happen. And then one morning I woke up and meditated, did yoga, and then boom, clear sky. And I could see the top of the mountain. I was like, wow, this is my day. So I didn't really plan as such. I got too enthusiastic and was pretty much grab my bag, grab a water, and I told myself I've got to run up this thing because I've got to make sure I've got enough time to get there and to come back. I didn't know how long it was going to take, whether it was going to take 3, 4, 5 hours. So I was just going. And this is a little bit unlike me because I would like to plan it, or I'd like to have someone. So it was a bit of a risk. I just threw myself out there. So I started running. I was quite fit back then. I was running up this mountain and following goat tracks and following herders and following dogs and anything that I could to try to traverse at the top of the mountain. And I got up there in about 3 hours of traversing and getting to the top of this mountain. It was quite sheer in places, which was a bit scary because there was no track. There was also no mobile phone thing, so there was no way to contact. And so just before I reached the top of the mountain, there was this unbelievable experience because as I was coming up and over the top of the mountain, on the top of the mountain was this beautiful grassy knoll. And to give you some sort of idea, probably the size of a full cricket pitch, but flat and beautiful green grass on top. I did actually end up seeing a monk in orange robes just happened to be walking around there, which was quite weird to see that because I thought I was by myself. But anyway, it was quite eerie. I was at the top of this mountain by myself with the sun shining on me. And it was just an incredible moment. And just as I got over the top of the grassy knoll, the entire Himalayan range opened up in this incredible blue sky. And I don't think I've ever been as awestruck as I have in that moment. It's like this feeling of being a part of it. And because of the circumstances, it was massively powerful. And I felt really connected to all of it. And I was aghast in this kind of wonderment about this Himalayan range sitting in front of me. So I felt compelled to go and connect more with it. I wanted it to drop into some level of silence. So what I thought I'd do is sit down on the other side of the grassy knoll and just face the Himalayan range and drop into some meditation. So I didn't put a timer on. I just wanted to be in the experience and to just witness it. And so I dropped into this very, very deep meditative state where I couldn't even feel my breath anymore. My heart rate had stopped down to such a slow beat. I could literally feel like I could control it and it was like one with the mountain. Now, I'm not sure how long I was there in that position and how long I meditated for, but I suspect it was several hours. Time just left me. Here's where the story turns. I was coming to completion of the meditation. I could feel myself coming out of it and starting to feel my face again and my body and those sort of things. And I felt this bitter cold around my face. And I was like, wow, what's that? And so the cloud cover, which had always been a big part of this mountain, had, in the time that I'd meditated, had shifted back onto the mountain without me noticing. And I'm not sure how long that process had happened, but it was, now to give you some sort of idea, I could, if I put my hand out like that, I couldn't see my hand. And so I was like, it took me a moment to grasp the situation. And then I had this realization that no one really knows where I am. I have no warm clothes. I have no food. I have no water left. And I'm on the other side of a mountain that has sheer cliffs and I can't see 1 foot in front of my face and there's no track. And all of this dawned on me in a moment and I had panic set in. I started to have a freak out in the moment. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm fucked. This is a bad situation. It was like dawning on me how bad it was. I can't see a track. If I miss the track, I could fall off the sheer cliff. So I started yelling and screaming for help. And I've never been in that situation where I've been screaming for help, like a drowning person. I feel like my life is now in the hands of somebody else finding me. And if I realized that if I'd gone the whole night at the top of the mountain hoping for the thing to clear, is that I probably wouldn't last because the temperatures would have dropped very well below zero and I would have most likely died in cold temperature. And I just remember having this quietness come over me as well, because like I think on the other side of fear is realization. And once I dropped into the realization, I was like, you put yourself into this mess, you put yourself here, what are you going to do? You're going to just continue to scream and yell and whatever and waste your energy and those sort of things, or you're going to level up and you're going to try to find a way. And I just remember this calm coming over me, somehow being at peace with the situation and with myself and going, okay. And so what I did was I just dropped back into meditation. So I was like, okay, I've got to try to use my intuition. I've got to try to use my senses in a heightened state in order to find clues, in order to find the other side of the mountain and hopefully a goat track, which might lead me out of this situation. And so I sat back down and I was like imagining myself. I was like, okay, where was I sitting? I was sitting here, the mountains are here. That must mean that 180 degrees behind me is where I came from. And so I turned myself around and then I closed my eyes and I was like, just don't be distracted by the visual and the panic around the visual. Just tap into the sound and feel like you're walking. How long would it be? Probably 200, 300, 400 meters or whatever. See if you can just imagine walking straight and walk straight and just tap into your hearing. And so I heightened the senses of my hearing and there was this slightest kind of like bark. I could hear this bark. It's like, that's a dog. That's a dog. And so I was like, okay, the dog must be on the other side of the mountain. I'm going to follow the noise of the dog. And the intuition just started to like really come, like when I allowed it, intuition just started to rise and rise more and more. And I was like, I'm going to get out of this. I just need to trust my steps and trust what I'm doing. And everything flew into this kind of like synchronicity of, I'm going to get out of this. I'm not going to fall off the cliff. I'm just going to trust my judgment and here we go. And so I just tapped into this sound of this dog. And so I must have gone a couple of 100 meters and I was starting to like, okay, I could be getting to the end of the cliff close now. So I'm just going to slow down and be really clear with my touch of my feet to make sure that I've got solid ground before I take my next step. And then I was looking down and this dog just appeared out of nowhere. This dog appeared out of me. It scared the shit out of me because it was in the cloud and his nose just came up out of nowhere. It just took a couple of sniffs and then he was off. That he kept on stopping and allowed me. So He kept on stopping enough for me to follow and to see his tail. So I just followed him, and this dog led me to the goat track, which then led me to some goats, and then led me to the monk, and then led me off the mountain. And I've never been so relieved in all of my life to find that goat track. Jolly good cry in that moment of finally realizing that I was going to be safe and I was going to get home. But it was definitely interesting, the journey, the emotions, the intuition, the opportunity, the way I handled it, seeing myself lose my shit and watching myself just panic. Like, I've never had that happen ever before. And then finally the realization, the awareness, the acknowledgement, the acceptance, the responsibility, falling into the silence, trusting, stepping forward, being courageous, telling myself it's going to work out. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff happened as a result of this. So I've got a picture that I took. That's the top of the grass. I'll try to find it. It's back in some boxes, but yeah, the picture doesn't do it justice. It just reminds me of exactly how incredibly beautiful it was. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you got something out of it. You know, for me, that there were powerful lessons in this, growth in the panic, like in some of your most challenging, most fearful situations, is there's education and growth beyond that as to how you can grow as a person. And I was quite proud of the way that I managed to get my shit together on the other side of it, and to trust and to listen and to be in silence and to connect and those sort of things. So yeah, there's some, and then applying those kind of things into, you could apply those things into any kind of challenging, fearful situation. You could apply many of those kind of steps or awareness or things in any situation. So anyway, if you've got a story, or if you've got something which is close or something aligned with that, or it's an impactful story for you, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Okay, ciao.